So here we are looking at red and pink winemaking. So you'll see we're on series 2 on whole bunch fermentations. We have completed crushed fruit fermentations. So this is whole bunch fermentations. This will be split into 3 parts. So let's get stuck into learning about the introduction to whole bunch fermentations and moving into the format of carbonic maceration. Okay, so let's rock and roll. Now, if you have watched previous videos, you'll know that I've already talked about the fact that most red wines are made normally with crushed fruit, and then a fermentation will occur. However, some winemakers will choose to include uncrushed whole bunches or berries in fermentation. Okay, so that's utilizing whole bunches or whole berries in the fermentation. Now, in some cases, the uncrushed fruit may make up the entire vat, but in others, only a small percentage may be used to make a more subtle contribution to the flavor of the wine. Now, some key parameters here. If we do utilize whole bunches, they will come into the winery, of course, with whole berries, with stems as well. Now, we must ensure that the grapes that come in with the stems, those stems must be fully ripe. If not, the tannin structure in the stems can give a finished wine an undesirable, astringent, green, bitter taste. So it's important, you'll see here, you've got some nice sort of slightly browning coloured stems. That's what we're looking for, not very freshly green. Also, to bring that fruit in good condition, you're going to need the grapes to be hand harvested. So that's, of course, therefore bringing in a whole bunch with stem intact. So all intact fruit, no splitting or crushing, of course. So that's one key viticultural parameter to ensure that this winemaking procedure will be very good. Now, the aim or objective of this technique is to create an oxygen-free environment for the uncrushed fruit. The lack of oxygen has a number of outcomes. Firstly, the berries create some alcohol in their cells without the involvement of any yeast. This is something we call intracellular fermentation. Okay, it will lead to quite distinct sort of unique fruity floral flavors in the wine. This is a conversion of the malic acid into ethanol within the grape. And here you are. So the real sort of desire here is that the important range of distinctive fruity and floral aromas are created at that time in that reductive environment through intracellular fermentation. So this gives the characters like candy, sort of sweets, kirsch, banana. So you'll see many of them up here on this slide. Now let's go through the process now of carbonic maceration, okay? And there are 3 major types of whole bunch that the level 3 certificate requires you to know. So carbonic, semi-carbonic, and then whole berries or bunches with crushed fruit. So in this presentation, we'll now just focus on carbonic maceration. And I've got some diagrams for you to help you understand that. So what is it? Carbonic maceration involves placing only whole, uncrushed berries into vats, and then the vat is filled with carbon dioxide to remove all of the oxygen. That's what I am depicting here on your diagram. So the air is let out and the carbon dioxide is pumped in. Now this will cause an intracellular fermentation to start within the berries. Once the level of alcohol in the grape reaches roughly about 2% alcohol, the grape skins will start to split and the grapes will release their juice. Now the grapes then are generally pressed at this stage to separate the juice from the skins. So free run juice will be drained off, and then the grapes will be pressed. All of this is generally then combined. So you see here, remaining grapes so the free run is drained, the remaining grapes are pressed and then blended into the free run, and the fermentation is completed as normal off skins with yeast. So it begins its life off with a carbonic maceration, and it will end its life off with a yeast fermentation off the skins. So what do we find with this production method? Now, importantly, this method extracts the colour from the grapes, but very little tannin. The resultant wines are often soft, full of fruit with distinctive notes of kirsch, banana, candied sweets, bubblegum, and cinnamon-like spice. You'll often find associated compounds like violet and lavender as well in these styles. Okay, well that brings me to a conclusion looking at carbonic maceration. Let's talk about, in the next video, a process similar but called semi-carbonic maceration. But until next time, hopefully see you here in the UK for a class, glass or bottle. I've been Jimmy Smith. Ciao for now. Goodbye.